everyone. Welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborn. Thank you so much for joining us today for what's going to be a great conversation. We're really excited to be talking to Gia and Francis Ford Coppola with the chief winemaker of Coppola Winery, Beck. We'll be talking wine, Oscars, and more. So appreciate everyone who has registered and submitted questions. We got a lot of great questions. We will be trying to include those in our conversation and hopefully get many of them answered for you. I do want to note, though, that this is Mr. Coppola's second time joining our virtual tasting. So if you want to get a wonderful, in-depth description and story of his path from making movies to making wine, and a lot more, I really encourage you to watch that video, which you can find on the Wine.com YouTube channel. It's just a great conversation, and it'll be totally worth your while. If you have purchased the wine collection for tonight ahead of time, wonderful. Please go ahead and get those open. We're tasting all 4 wines. Get some glassware out. If you don't have the wine, not a problem. The set is still available on Wine.com, but 2 of these wines are slightly limited in availability. So if you do want to taste them, I suggest you go ahead and get on purchasing them. So the 4 wines we're tasting in order are the Family Coppola 93rd Awards Chardonnay, the Gia Red Blend, the Francis Ford Coppola Diamond Collection Claret, and the Family Coppola 93rd Awards Cabernet Sauvignon. So excited to taste all these. And now I'd like to introduce our guests. We have CEO and winemaking chief of Francis Ford Coppola Winery, Beck. Hi, Corey, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks for having us again.
We also have film director and screenwriter Gia Coppola. Welcome, Gia.
Hi.
So glad you guys are here. And of course, we also have filmmaker, screenwriter, producer, and winery owner, Francis Ford Coppola. Hi, Francis.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this wonderful tasting and talk and storytelling. So Francis, we spoke last in June, where you talked a lot about your history of your path from making films into making wine, but I was wondering if you could give us a recap today of how you started in the wine business.
Well, of course, as an Italian American, as a child, I never saw a table for dinner that didn't have wine on it. My family drank wine as with every meal. In fact, the story goes that my grandfather, who had 7 sons, lived in kind of what was then called Italian Harlem in a tenement with these 7 boys. And during Prohibition, of course, you weren't allowed to buy wine, but the government did allow you to make your own wine if you were a wine drinking family. They allowed that. So my grandfather would bring every year share a half a train load of grapes from the Napa Valley. I actually bought from Cesare Mondavi and shared with several other people in the neighborhood because you had to buy a minimum order. And these grapes came to their home on Lexington Avenue and 110th Street, where in the basement there was a concrete fermenter that he had built himself, and they made the wine, which then was, of course, consumed all year. And the boys helped, and the boys, of course, wanted the fruit, so they would sneak the little kids in to get the grapes so they could eat the grapes. And so there were these wonderful stories told to us about this process that went on. And so when later I came to live in San Francisco, I had made the Godfather film, and I said to my wife, let's buy a little tiny house in the Napa Valley with maybe an acre of grapes, and we'll learn how to make wine, and we'll give it to the relatives for Christmas, because I had remembered that my grandfather made his own wine. While we were looking at the very small house with a little bit of vineyard property, the agent said, well, this isn't for you, but they're going to auction the Niebaum estate. And I said, well, what's that? And they said, well, the Niebaum estate is part of what was the great Inglenook estate, which was the most beautiful winery in Napa Valley. And the owner, now it's owned by other companies, it's been sort of broken up, but the owners residence where actual Gustav Niebaum lived, with about 1,600 acres of vineyards and stuff, is going to be auctioned, and it's a chance to see it. And I said, well, we'd like to see it. We had no intention to buy it, or could we afford to buy it? So they took us through it, and indeed, it was the most beautiful property I'd ever seen in my life. It had everything. It had the beautiful home of the founder, where I'm actually sitting right now. And it had, I don't know, maybe 100 acres of the original Inglenook vineyards. And then it had an entire mountain that our property, this property rather, was bordered. So to make a long story short, once I had seen that, I said to my wife, well, maybe we should try to have a place like that. And of course, we didn't get it. We made a bid and we didn't get it. And then I was crestfallen. I was about to go away to make Apocalypse Now. So we looked at other bigger places, and nothing compared to the beauty of the Inglenook property. And so, but we heard a rumor that the people who had bought it really were financed by people who were going to build 60 homes on the mountain, and they had been turned down because Napa was deemed an agricultural preserve. So when I heard that they couldn't build what their intention was, I went to the owners and I said, I understand your finance partners are going to build this, but they can't. Maybe now they don't want to own it anymore. Maybe they want to sell it. And they said, yes, we do. And I bought it with some loan I was able to put together, and went off 2 weeks later to make Apocalypse Now. And that is the story of how I acquired this extraordinary property. And of course, the next logical thing was when people wanted to make deals on leasing our grapes, which is customary here, 20-year lease with someone. I said, well, why do we want, if the grapes are so good, why don't we just make wine? She says, Francis, you don't know how to make wine. I said, well, I don't know how to make movies either. So that didn't stop me. And that's how I got into the wine business.
It is, and you've built it so much since then. And what I love it is kind of what I want you to tell us a little bit about your mission, I guess, or your vision in creating Francis Ford Coppola Winery, because it's not just a winery; it is a destination. So, how did you build that up? What were some of the things you?
Well, it's a complicated story. I don't want to overstay my welcome here, but the truth of the matter is that a place like a winery or a hotel it's basically all show business, because it has the basic components. It has the show, then it has the guests or the people who are enjoying it, who are the audience. It has the costumes, is the way everyone's dressed, and being a kid who was a theater major in school, I viewed everything as a kind of a show, it's that wonderful Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney thing. Hey kids, let's put on a show. But in our family, it's let's do a show. And so when we did. And we did expand. I will give you all the reasons why we separated, but they had to do with the fact that Inglenook was such a precious and respected place that I felt that I was being amiss by having my Oscars and awards there, and my feelings were hurt. Someone said, "Oh, Francis turned it into a personal temple to his stuff," which I didn't. I didn't mean to. I just had. So I said at one point, I'm going to take all the Coppola out of what was Inglenook, and I'm going to only offer there what is actually produced from those vineyards. And of course, by then we had a lot of other. We had the Claret wine, which was very well received, and so the people who ran the company said, well, Francis, what are you going to do with all these awards and stuff these displays if you're going to take them away? I said, well, we'll put them somewhere else. And we, in fact, went over to Sonoma, wonderful Sonoma, and we're able to buy the, I forget now its name, oddly enough, but nonetheless, that became the Francis Coppola Winery, and we're all the awards. And then, the kids used to come to Inglenook, and sometimes I love to watch the kids, And they would jump in the fountain, and people would say, "Oh no, you can't jump in the fountain because," and they said, "Why not?" And they said, "Because it's a fountain, it's not a swimming pool." And they said, "Well, why isn't it a swimming pool?" So based on those kids, I had the idea to build a winery so the kids could do something when the parents, in fact, the whole family could do something, because the parents could come and taste the wines and sample the wines, and the children could enjoy the swimming pool, and the grandparents could watch the children because they love to watch the children play. So my feeling was that places, we're too separated. We send the adults here and the kids there and the grandparents there. They want to be together. And so I made a place where they could be together, and that became the Francis Coppola Winery.
And I've been there quite a few times with my own children, and I've always appreciated that togetherness of being able to enjoy wine and great food, and also have your children just enjoy life. So thank you for creating that. And Gia,
the best way to enjoy life is for the family to do it together.
Exactly.
That's the idea.
Mm-hmm. Yes, which we've all been doing a lot of that this past year too. And Gia, yeah. I know, absolutely. And Gia, I know you kind of grew up a little bit around the vineyards because they were created before during your childhood. So, do you have a wine memory, like a first wine memory from that time?
Yeah, I just always remember wine being on the dinner table, and just having it with like having a little bit of wine with like Sprite or 7-Up. So it always was just a big part of my life. But as a kid, the winery is so close to where we live, so I'd love to walk over there and walk through the stores and get. They used to have lemon ice, and I wanted to have a job there, so I got to be the olive oil girl for a little bit because I was only 13 and you couldn't. Wasn't legal essentially, so I was allowed to be the olive oil girl and give people samplings of the olive oil,
which is also excellent in California. So let's go and start tasting a little bit of the wines. Our first wine is one of the wines created for the Oscars, the Family Coppola 93rd Award Chardonnay. So Francis, this is the 5th year of creating Oscars wine. Can you tell us a little bit how it came to be for you to create wine for the Oscars?
Well, when you say create for the Oscars, what you have to make clear is that at the end of the Oscars, there is a big banquet. Mm-hmm. And everyone, the winners and their families and their friends and other associates, even the losers, because it's a community of artists, all have a banquet. And what we did, or what we do for the 5 years, is we provide the wine for the banquet. And so the challenge of doing something that's going to sit on the table when these people come back from their big night of wins, bringing their Oscars in their hands, was what would that bottle be like? And 5 years ago, I would always enjoy coming up, since I feel I'm one of their own, having been in the film community. I tried to come up with something really creative. And one year we had an unbelievable bottle at the Oscar, which if you took the label and turned it, it actually made an animated film on the bottle. But it was very popular. But this thing cost so much per bottle that they said, well, we want you to do the wine on. And I said, well, God, we can't afford to have this. I wish I had one to show you. Maybe Corey has one, but you actually turn the label and it made a little movie like a zoetrope. So then I had to come up with another idea because we couldn't afford to make all of those labels. And my idea was to have a bottle that would be sitting on the table, and that the people in the table could just grab it and pretend they won an Oscar and say, I want to thank my mother and my sister, and I want to thank my father. Thank you so much. This means so much to me. So I wanted to have a bottle that would inspire to be used as if it were an Oscar. And the idea was to have this totally perfectly beautiful gold wine bottle with a plaque on it like an Oscar. And that's what it was a couple of years ago. And then I improved it, made it even more look like the gold. And that's what the bottle is this year. Unfortunately, they're not going to have the banquet because of the pandemic, but we are going to present these gold bottles to all the winners, and people can have them too. It's a wonderful wine, and it's an extraordinary. We'd like to say, well, we're giving ourselves an Oscar for our beautiful claret wine, and but nonetheless, yes, this is now available as well as being the official wine for the 93rd Oscars.
Yeah, it hasn't always been available, so we finally people have a chance to try it and taste it, and it's delicious. I've already had some. Corey, can you tell us a little bit about what we're drinking? It's from Russian River Valley, Chardonnay. Maybe talk us a little bit through what we're tasting.
Yeah, thank you, Gwendolyn. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, Francis, we're unfortunately sold out of the animated labels. That was quite a feat, though, I must say, from everybody. And then this year with the gold bottle is pretty impressive. So, you know, every year we sit with the steering committee at the Academy, and they get to go through and taste the wines with us. So they are really a part of assessing kind of where we want to go and the quality. So we, this last year, 2019 Russian River Chardonnay, all barrel selected. In fact, when we would do the samples, we would send them samples ahead of time to LA, all barrel samples, so they'd have a preview. Then we would, you know, go down and taste with them. So it's been 100% barrel fermented at some of our best Russian River vineyards in Sonoma County. And I think it's one of the things that we're blessed with here in Sonoma County. We have so many diverse regions that grow great Cabernet and Zinfandel, and you know, right on our border here is Russian River. So it's quite the place.
Yeah, this is beautiful. I love. There's such a richness to the aromas here. It's got just wonderful citrus, but also that kind of almost butterscotch, just really inviting aromas going on.
The things kind of early on with working with Francis, it was, you know, if you get great fruit like a chef, right? If you have great ingredients, you know, let it speak for itself. And so this is really our philosophy. So you don't have to over oak the wine. You don't need a bunch of additives, just let it speak for itself. And so we rely heavily on our growers, and we have some of the best growers, you know, on all of California here in Sonoma County.
Yeah, I love the acidity on this wine too. I think that's super important to balance out everything going on. So delicious.
Thank you.
So Gia wines, our next wine that we're going to be tasting is the Gia Red Blend. So I imagine, Francis, you were the first to kind of come up with the idea of creating a Gia line of wines. Is that correct?
Oh, well, yes, I learned early on a new technique of bringing the family closer together, which is to turn all of your relatives into products. So there was I had told little Sophia when she was only a 8-year-old that one day I would make a sparkling wine like in the champagne style that she could drink at her wedding. I just told this little girl that, and then later when she grew up and did get married, I had to come up with it because you always have to keep your promise to children, because if you don't keep a promise to a child, then they won't believe in promises anymore. Mm-hmm. So I did. But so then I wanted Gia, and Gia was an interesting girl because she was very interested in beverages. And in fact, when I said to her, okay, Gia, when you're done with college, you're going to have a real job and go to work and, you know, be a waitress or be someone that knows what it is to make a living for your own character. She said, well, could I be a bartender? And I said, sure. So she went to bartending school and did it, completed it, and ultimately became a bar back and pursued that. So we really enjoyed thinking of what a wine that she would create with, and she was very very active in actually participating in the wine, and we had a lot of unusual ideas. And you know, when you're the youngest kid, as she is of the she's the oldest of the grandchildren, but she's the youngest of the children, you get, and she's a very wonderful, shy person. So people sometimes impose their ideas on her. And there was a little of that, but then finally she emerged and she said, no, I like this and I like that. And she began to really put an imprint of her personality, which is great because there's this unusual 1 liter bottle with a bottle cap. I love this package, and it is adorned with her photographs. So it's more for your money. I remember when I was a kid, they used to say Pepsi-Cola was better than Coca-Cola because Pepsi-Cola is a lot, 12 full ounces. That's a lot. They used to say you get more in Pepsi-Cola, and indeed, in a liter of Gia, you get more. So, and it has a bottle cap, and which is a wonderful closure, and the whole thing has a personality. It's youthful, and I love the wine, and I love the labels that are her photographs. So I always enjoy drinking Gia wines.
So Gia, yeah, you get this wine kind of name to yourself. What was your inspiration for this line of wines, as your grandfather's talking about? Like, what audience did you see enjoying them? What was kind of your visual inspiration?
I just wanted to make a wine that I knew my friends would like, and kind of how we go about buying wine. And it's so much about what the bottle looks like and kind of judging a book by its cover, but it's also sort of the price point. You don't want to spend too much, but you also don't want to spend too little, because then you kind of associate that with it not being very good wine. So there's sort of this middle ground that I knew I had to aim for. And because it was a liter, it was like you get a lot of bang for your buck. But in terms of kind of designing the label, I didn't really have much in mind for like a design per se. So I was noticing it was really cool I was really drawn to bottles that had photographs, and that was starting up. And I studied photography in college, so it made sense to me to try and use all of these photos that I just have on file for the label.
So for this particular label too, a lot of people who register were very interested in the cat. They said they have a cat who looks just like it. So was this your actual cat, a photograph of your cat?
It's not my cat. It's actually a friend's cat, but yeah, it's just a fat cat on a pink carpet. One of my cousins, when I first sort of presented the wine, he was like, "Oh, fat cat wine." And it just kind of had a kind of a trend, I guess.
I love it. So you're making this very easy drinking, wonderful red wine. It is in a liter bottle, which again, more bang for your buck. And then your choice to do a crown cap, as your grandfather said, was that a choice of style or aesthetics or ease of opening?
Well, my grandpa, I think, kind of came up with it, but I liked it because it makes it really casual and kind of less intimidating and pretentious. And I like the idea, if you were on a picnic with your friends or like an outdoor concert, it's easy to open and you have a lot of it, so you can share it with people. And I don't know, when I'm at a party or something with friends, sometimes you just kind of bang the bottle against the hard surface and it opens. So you don't need like a bottle opener. And yeah, I liked that about it.
Yeah, it does have that kind of unpretentious, easy drinking, meant for a group of people, a group of friends to enjoy together. So I love that. I also love the flavor and the taste. So Corey, can you tell us a little bit about the blend here?
Yeah, so it's about 50% Graciano. We have a little bit of Grenache and Petit Syrah. And it was actually so much fun working on these blends with Gia, because she was extremely active. We would continue to send samples back and forth. And so we were able to kind of work on what profile she would like. And you can tell here, it's very fruity, but it's got wonderful color. It has seriousness to it, but yet it's not overly, say, pretentious, but in terms of the size of the wine. It's got wonderful mouthfeel, good acidity again. And Graciano is an amazing grape. It's got great acidity, great color. And the majority of this comes from Pas Robles, which we've been working with for many years. So it really does speak to what Gia's vision was for this.
Yeah, I love this. It's juicy, I guess is one word that I would love to put to it. And sometimes when you make certain red blends, they kind of have a medicinal or an attractive flavor, but this is just absolutely deliciously drinkable. And it is kind of meant for something where you don't need to have food. You can have it at a picnic. It could be lunch, it could be dinner, it could be a barbecue. It's really delicious. So it was my first time having the Gia Red Blend. So
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I am a convert. Yes, thank you. So that's delicious. And so Gia, you're pleased with this wine. You enjoy this wine.
Yeah, it was fun for me. I mean, because I studied bartending and went to school, I learned a lot about like spirits, and I was really fascinated by the history behind, gin and bathtub gin and all those kind of narratives. But when I became a barback and I studied at Bouchon and we did a kind of wine course, it felt very intimidating, and I couldn't quite get a grasp of what constituted as good wine. And I actually went on a little road trip with Corey in Portland, Oregon, and he kind of really showed me all the different Pinot Noirs, and I got a real lesson of just kind of following what is it that I like, and making it less scary. But yeah, then sort of the process is sending. It's sort of like a pen pal where I get packages of wine samples, and then I can kind of send them back of like, oh, I like part A with a little bit part B, and then I send it back to them and get another version. And yeah, it was fun education process.
Yeah, it's good. It's creating a piece of art in a way. Well, delicious. The next wine we have is a consumer favorite, the Claret. This wine is just a go-to for so many who they rely on and love. We got a lot of responses of people just excited because this is what they get. I was even out talking to neighbors earlier today, and they're like, "Oh yes, I know Coppola Winery. We drink the Claret all the time." So, Francis, can you tell us a little bit about the history and evolution of this wine?
Well, years ago, I made a film called The Rain People, and the idea of the film was we were shooting going across the United States with this woman who loved her husband but didn't want to be a wife. It was actually a very prescient movie because it was made in the 60s, and it dealt really with the subject of the emerging woman, a woman who wishes also to work and have a profession and what have you. So I noticed that when we made the film, of course, we had dinner across the country, and people were drinking milk with their dinner. They were drinking beer. They were drinking Coca-Cola, very rarely wine. But of course, we like to drink wine. And then there were some countries, states where we went where there was incredible steaks available. And there was an Australian Shiraz that was available. I've forgotten the name, but it was basically a wine you could trust. If you saw that wine, I wish I could remember the name. It was very popular, and it was modest in price. But I always knew that if it was there and I bought it, it wouldn't let me down, and it would go great with the steak we were barbecuing. And basically, when I made Claret, I wanted it to be a wine that would never let you down, that would give you a really good wine experience with the food you were eating, that you could trust it. You could trust it to come across and be there for you. And that's what Claret has become. It's a wine that will never let you down, and it's priced in a way that you can afford it, and yet it gives you a quality experience that goes very well with food. It is complex, and it's trusted, and I think it has been successful. For that reason, it's the wine. It won't let you down. If you really are confused, you're in a situation. There's a lot of different wine, a lot of different possibilities, and you choose that, you won't regret it.
And then I know that wrong way. The net on the label. This was something that was your idea, right?
Which
the net the netting.
Well, what happened was this wine became very popular, and then they do always what is called in the industry a wine extension. Before you know it, there was the Black Label Claret, which then had it had a Blue Label Merlot, and there was the Red Label Zinfandel. Before you know it, there were like 12 wines of this diamond family. And we wanted to like elevate the Claret, And even though there were now other diamond wines, which were good, but they were different varietals, the Claret was a real favorite. And we wanted to lift it up. And so we gave it a more beautiful label. And I decided to put it in the wire netting to make it be really like it was royalty as far as our diamond wines. And that was the origin of we got a netting machine and we gave the wine the net, but just so that you would know that it was royalty of our diamond wines, of which there are, I don't know, about 8 of them. How many are there, Corey?
There's
I'm gonna
8
taste
that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, makes it easily recognizable. So Corey, with this flavor profile, what kind of are you aiming for? How does the grape varietal blend change year to year to make it so consistently delicious?
Yeah, great question. So we're fortunate enough, it's a Cabernet base and we utilize all of California. And, little did we know that when we started this, that having our risk for fires spread out all throughout California would serve us well. So we have grapes all the way from Paso Robles to El Dorado. And it really allowed us to look at these regions and source the best Cabernet, Merlot, Petit Verdot, some of the Bordeaux blends that go into this. So it keeps it very consistent throughout.
And that way it's very reliable. It has that wonderful black fruit. It has a wonderful acidity and that balance and enough tannin to make it go with so many different foods. So I think so many people are fans. So well done. Keep doing it. We're all big fans. So the last wine that we have is another 93rd Awards wine. It is the Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is coming from Alexander Valley. But Francis, could you touch really quickly on who is making this bottle this year? I think it's the Bottega family from Italy. Was that a change?
I will, but I first want to ask you to do a favor.
Sure.
I want you to take the bottle and make a speech thanking your family and your daughter Eleanor for the achievement of winning this great award, as though you just won an Oscar. Go ahead.
So I want to thank my parents, and I want to thank my husband. And I want to thank my 3 daughters, Eleanor and Adelaide and Matilda, and I want to thank my dog Lola. And thank you all so much. Is that good?
Oh, very well done.
Do I need to tear up a little?
So actually, we made this gold bottle, which was to be as much like an Oscar as possible. But I came upon a process that I saw that was even more beautiful and more golden like an Oscar. And it was something invented by a company in Italy called Bottega, and a wonderful man who I contacted. And I asked, could I possibly use your process to make these golden bottles be really gold, like an Oscar? And they said yes. And so this is a patent from the Bottega company, and they did allow us to do it, and we're very appreciative. And it's also, he makes wonderful wines in Italy, and that's how we got this. It's really extraordinary looking. I mean, it looks like an Oscar.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the shape at all of an Oscar, yet it somehow feels as though you've. So buy this wine and you'll know what it likes to feel like holding an Oscar in your hand. You can make speeches to your family and thank all your family for this great award.
Yes, I feel like I definitely need to work on my speech, but we will probably.
You were good. It was very sincere, and best of all, it was short.
Yeah, I know they flash lights at you or start like counting down and playing music if you go too long.
Yeah, they'll play music to get you off,
Wonderful. So the grapes come from Alexander Valley. So maybe Corey, if you have any thoughts, or can you walk us through a little bit of the flavor profile of the Alexander Valley cab?
Well, just quickly, when the year before we launched this, we had another company here in California that was a nail polish company that painted the bottles gold. And we thought they were incredible. And then along came what our friends in Italy did. So it really was, it was incredible what they've been able to do. So we do, a good portion of this comes from our estate here in Alexander Valley. It is 100% Cabernet, and kind of the same philosophy with this is that making sure that the wine is well balanced, and then be able to source from our different vineyards that we have. And the Academy has always been very complimentary with what we're doing, but then they also provide feedback too, because they know their audience, so that's kind of part of it as well.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a beautiful wine. I know. Didn't you did Pinot last year?
We did. Yeah, we
Chardonnay,
did Pinot. Yep.
and Chardonnay, and obviously there's no actual party going on. But do they give you feedback on that as well? Just like we prefer a Cabernet or a Pinot, or you offer?
We kind of go through and say this is the best of the vintage, and so 19 was definitely hands down Cabernet. I mean, great Pinots, but what we did off the estate and some of these other vineyards were pretty incredible. Okay.
Well, it's delicious. This one's a little bit fuller bodied, bigger than the Gia. Definitely those classic Cabernet characteristics to it, but well worth it. Plus, again, you have artwork to display on your shelves afterward when you're done. So I know that the Oscars are coming up and celebrating films over this past year, but I also know that we're anticipating a new movie from you, Gia. So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about what's coming up May 7th, the movie Mainstream.
Yeah, May 7th on video on demand and in theaters. Yeah, it's I felt like I don't know, it's a love story, but in the context of kind of this world of social media and the internet. And I think for me, I've been very fascinated of just kind of what our culture values and the sort of transition of how everything is kind of coming into this internet world, and how does that affect our emotions, and how do you stay authentic in that sort of space. But at the same time, it's just, a love story and kind of a coming of age journey for a 20-year-old.
That's beautiful. Yeah, having, 3 children kind of going through this, especially being on screens this whole past year, that is a big question I think so many have. So, how do you be authentic in this kind of crazy, almost inauthentic world?
The movie is called Mainstream.
Yep. So everybody look for Mainstream, May 7th. One final question for you, Francis, just we're kind of talking about, the labels for your Oscar wines have kind of evolved over time. We've kind of had a very strange year, obviously, but, as your labels evolve, as things evolve, have you seen the Oscars evolve over these past years?
Well, of course, I remember the Oscars very well as a child. In the 50s, I remember we used to go into our parents' bedroom and where the television was and sit on the floor in front of their bed and watch the Oscars, and it was very exciting. And of course, the trouble is that the award shows just grew, and now there isn't just this wonderful award show. They copied it, and so there's the Oscars are surrounded by award shows, and there are even award shows for award shows. There's the Golden Globes and the Grammys and the Tonys and the this and the that, and it's taken some of the magic away from. And also the shows originally were very informal. It was like you were really with those people who knew him, or you were with Audrey Hepburn and Gary Cooper, and it wasn't a big production. It was a more intimate family gathering, which it should be, because it was a award given by your peers and your colleagues, and it was very touching. And now, award shows are they copy them. And I don't know how many award shows there are. It must be over 20 or 30, and so something is lost. But there's always a soft spot in your heart for the Oscars, because it was the first, and it was something that we as children just so used to love to see with our families. So what can I say? Too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Well, I hope next year we will be able to see them in person. There'll be more opportunities to do that. I hope we'll have, I'm aiming to have 5 of these like you did. I'm gonna have 5 of these on my shelf with a story of somebody to thank for each, but thank you for creating these magical wines, for having a magical place, and doing such excellent work in film and wine. And Gia, I look forward to watching your new movie, and I'm excited to become a fan of my new liter bottle of red. So, and Corey, as always, thank you for being just a genius winemaker and a participant for these shows. So, so thank you again so much for your time. Francis, we appreciate it. Corey,
Can I make one little toast?
Francis, I was hoping you would. I really want you to. You must be able to be the one to finish us off.
Good. Well, my mother, you told me once, especially when we were getting in the wine business, she said, "Oh, Coppola this, Coppola that. Always everything is Coppola. Don't forget, you're half Pinino." So here we are in the Napa Valley, the beautiful and really unimaginably beautiful, iconic Napa Valley. But the Napa Valley this, the Napa Valley that, there's also Sonoma, beautiful Sonoma. So I want to make a toast to Sonoma. So thank you, Sonoma. Also a wonderful, wonderful wine growing region. To Sonoma.
Absolutely, to Sonoma.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you again, everyone.
Cheers.
Sante, yes, yes.
It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com. Seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.